Welcome to this explainer. We spend so much of our lives just letting our environment and our random impulses completely run the show, constantly reacting to whatever gets thrown our way. But what if we flipped the script? Today, we're going to learn exactly how to transition from being reactive to becoming the actual deliberate architect of your own habits, your career, and your mindset. What if you could systematically design your world so that success, however you define it, just becomes your absolute default state? Okay, let's take a look at our blueprint for today. We'll be covering 1, becoming a life architect, 2, designing your choice architecture, 3, the 20-second rule, 4, the power of masterminds, and finally 5, hacks for the mind. Let's jump right into section 1, becoming a life architect and making that initial mindset shift. Because to build a house, you really have to understand the ground you're building on, right? There's this brilliant quote from Robert Fritz in his book, The Path of Least Resistance. He points out that the greatest leaders in history weren't just putting out fires and constantly problem solving. No, they were visionary builders. They actually envisioned a specific result and then constructed a path to get there. Problem-oriented thinking is super common, sure, but it's fundamentally flawed if you actually want to grow. It's literally a tale of two entirely different mindsets. Creators organize their lives around a crystal clear vision. They use what Fritz calls structural tension to literally pull themselves toward their goals. On the flip side, reactors are just constantly forfeiting their power to their circumstances. They look to their jobs or maybe their partners for satisfaction, and they only make conditional choices based on whatever cards they happen to be dealt that day. You have to actively choose to be the creative force in your own life. Moving right along to section 2, designing your choice architecture, or the blueprint of habits. Now that we've got our mindset facing the right direction, let's physically build the environment around us. We're going to use this total game changer of a concept popularized by behavioral economist Richard Thaler called choice architecture. Basically, you become the literal architect of your physical space. The whole goal is to make the absolute best choice the easiest, most obvious default option. You don't need to magically summon more willpower. You just need to change how your choices are presented to you. To show you just how incredibly powerful this invisible hand really is, check out Dr. Ann Thorndike's study at the Massachusetts General Hospital cafeteria. She had this hypothesis that she could improve the eating habits of thousands of staff and visitors without saying a single word to any of them. So, what did she do? She just tweaked the room's layout. She kept the soda in the main fridges, sure, but she added water to every single drink location and put little baskets of bottled water right next to the food stations. And get this, the results were absolutely staggering. Over just 3 months, simply by making water more visible and accessible, water sales surged by 25.8%, while soda sales dropped by over 11%. They didn't ban soda, they just changed the architecture of the room. Think about how you can do this at home. Want to remember to take your vitamins? Just put the bottle literally right next to your bathroom faucet. All right, let's look at section 3. The 20-second rule and hacking activation energy. This builds perfectly into an immediate, super actionable strategy to control your daily routines. Happiness expert Sean Aucour discovered that the initial spark, what physicists actually call activation energy, required to start a good habit or kill a bad one, often comes down to just mere seconds. Friction is the name of the game here. You absolutely must decrease the friction to start positive habits while deliberately making your negative habits about 20 seconds harder to execute. For example, Acor wanted to practice guitar, but it was tucked away in his closet. Just that 20 seconds of effort to go get it was enough friction to stop him completely. So he bought a stand and left the guitar right in the middle of his living room. Boom, he practiced 21 days in a row. On the flip side, want to watch less TV? Take the batteries out of the remote and stuff them in a drawer in the other room. Make your bad habit super annoying to accomplish. On to section 4, the power of masterminds, or gathering your construction crew. Okay, so we've optimized our physical space and hacked our daily friction. Now let's scale that success up by designing our social environment through mastermind groups. Because let's face it, you really can't build a skyscraper completely alone. Unlike expert-driven coaching, which is a very vertical relationship, or just unstructured networking, which is mostly about expanding loose ties, masterminds give you this horizontal, peer-to-peer accountability. They're these amazing little ecosystems of collective intelligence where collaborative problem-solving really thrives.
And there's actual hard data backing this up. A Swedish academic study at Lund University looked at 16 postdocs, who, as you might guess, are a highly stressed group of early career researchers. They proved that having a safe, confidential space with just 3 to 6 peers effectively shifts the focus away from the negative aspects of a challenge and points it directly toward positive, actionable solutions. It basically gave them a designated breathing space to reflect and actually grow together.
So how do you run one?
Well, these groups operate optimally using what's called the hot seat method. One person presents a specific challenge, and the collective mind of the whole group swarms it with candid feedback and ideas. And to make sure it works, you support it with vital roles, like a facilitator to keep the clock moving and an accountability partner to make sure you actually execute on the advice. This kind of social architecture pretty much guarantees you don't stagnate.
Finally, Section 5, hacks for the mind and maintaining your architecture. To close out our blueprint today, let's fire through some rapid-fire physical, emotional, and cognitive hacks. Think of this as the ongoing maintenance required to sustain this new reality you're building. Sometimes, to know exactly what you should do, you have to know exactly what not to do. Using some reverse psychology adapted from Dr. Randy Potterson, if you want to be just utterly miserable, follow these steps. Stay entirely still, completely mess with your sleep cycle, stare at screens all day, and whatever you do, set vapid goals. That stands for vague, amorphous, pie in the sky, irrelevant, and delayed. If you're ever feeling stuck, seriously just look at this list, ask yourself which of these misery-maximizing habits you're doing right now, and then do the exact opposite.
Here's a really fascinating physical hack from Dr. Shade Zarai for instant confidence. Research actually shows that neck flexion, which is just lowering your head and looking down, directly correlates with lower moods and feeling insecure. Simply elongating your neck, literally just increasing the physical distance between your chin and your chest, naturally signals confidence to your brain. It automatically conveys this big trust energy to everyone around you. It's such a simple tweak.
But what happens when anxiety hits hard? Podcast host and author Dan Harris offers this incredibly effective, heavily science-backed 3-step reset. First, just call it out. Notice that you are spiraling. Second, literally place your hand right on your chest. This physical touch actually triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, shifting your body out of anxiety and into a state of rest. And third, talk to yourself using your own name, exactly the way you would reassure a really good friend. You can and should be your own support system. We also have to diligently maintain our intellectual independence. You've got to channel your inner Socrates here. He taught that self-knowledge is just an endless, ongoing process of self-questioning. You have to constantly examine your own motivations. Ask yourself, why do I actually think that? Is it possible I just believe this out of pure, unexamined habit? You have to be totally willing to admit that you might just be operating on somebody else's default settings. And when you're dealing with the everyday frustrations of life, look to Plato. He gave this amazing advice that you should never be angry at what you can help and what you cannot help. In other words, swap out that irrational anger for cold, hard logic. Shift your mindset away from demanding that the world goes your way to simply desiring it. If you can fix a problem, well, go fix it. And if you can't, being angry about it literally won't change a thing. Which brings us to our final thought for today from Mark Twain. As you go forth from this explainer to architect your new life, to intentionally design your environments, and to hack your habits, I want you to ask yourself, are you critically evaluating your defaults, or are you just blindly following the crowd? True life architects always pause, reflect, and then build their very own path. So what kind of blueprint are you going to draw up for yourself tomorrow? Thanks for joining me, and start building.